everyone, I'm so excited today. I'm actually working with a medium that I have wanted to try out for so long, but I haven't had them. So I recently picked up Pan Pastels. It was actually a surprise to me that these are made by Golden, which are some of my favorite acrylic paints, the Golden Fluid acrylics. So I saw their logo on these sets and I was very excited to give these a try. I've heard a lot of good things about them and I wanted to show you how I'm going to use them. There are a lot of colors and some of the colors come in sets. So the ones that I picked out were the portrait set, and that's got these 6 colors. All of the sets come with these little tools. The brand of the tool is Soft, S-O-F-F-T, and they have these little mini sponges, like a knife sponge. Then they've got these bigger ones, a triangle and a round edge. The next set that I got was the intro set. This has your 3 primary colors, black and white and a green. The next set is the landscape set. This has some nice brown tones, lots of blues. It's got 3 different blues and a teal color and a yellow, bright yellow. The next set is the metallics, and that set has a copper, a gold, and a silver. And the last set that I got is the blend-in shade that has this blending colorless blender, which I thought was really cool, a white and a black. And the colorless blender is to make it so that your color blends out without being blended with the white. So these are the colors. I kind of put them in order of like a paint palette. And I did take one of the little papers that came inside the sets. All of them had this little paper, but it had the colors, like color blocked. And so I did a little check mark next to all of the colors that I have. That way I could make sure if I were to get some more colors or sets, I don't get the same ones I already have. So to get started, I'm going to use these leaves that I've been pressing for probably about 2 weeks, and they're nice and flat. These are squash leaves, and then I have some lantana leaves, and then I also have one leaf that's from a pothos plant. And the pothos plant leaf is very, very thin and almost like paper. But by pressing them, I am hoping that I can get nice flat images like this. This is the pothos leaf that had really nice kind of veins to it, but it really felt like a piece of rice paper or thinner. The lantana has a lot of texture on it, and actually the squash leaves do as well. So for starters, I wanted to just see if I could use this little tool, the knife tool, to put some color on the back of the leaves. I saw this on Instagram. It was something that popped up really quick in my feed, and by the time I went to click on it, it had disappeared. So I have no idea who had this inspiration for me, but it's not my own idea. I just saw it and wanted to try it myself. But basically the idea is you take Pan Pastels and you rub them over the leaf veining, and then you put that on your jelly plate to transfer the chalk powders onto the gel plate. So that's what I wanted to try. This little sponge was doing a little bit better job than the first knife sponge. And then once I got to working on the squash leaf, I realized it was a little bit too delicate for this big sponge, so I pulled out my makeup brush. And this is just a nice delicate brush. And it's the same one that I love using for my perfect pearl powders. And it does break apart the powders in the Pan Pastels a little bit, so you can kind of see it's looking more like chalk. But it doesn't affect how it gets used. The soft tools don't tend to do that to the little compact discs. The powders stay compact with those soft tools. But I did read up on it, and if you want to get it back to looking smooth, or if you mix your colors and they're kind of blending into the different palettes, all you have to do is take either one of those soft tools or a paper towel and rub it, and it will smooth it back out again. Now, working on this leaf here that looks like paper. The powders weren't sticking to it very well, but I went ahead and put it on the gel plate anyway to see if I can get any of that powder to transfer with the design. The squash leaves, those held up very well to the powders, so they stuck to the surface very nicely. And the lantana leaves that have quite a bit of texture on them, those also held quite a bit of the powders. I used a piece of tissue paper just so that I could really press down on those leaves without ruining them. The goal here is to put enough pressure to get the powders to apply to the gel plate, but don't press so hard that you ruin the leaf. So this one was already breaking a little bit, and I thought maybe I could transfer a little more of that color up in the corner, but because this leaf was so delicate, when I was pulling it away, it really just stuck and it was very difficult to get the rest of the leaf off. So I pulled out my palette knife and I was able to kind of gently peel away the rest of that leaf. Again, these two types of leaves had no issue, but I did like using the palette knife to kind of get under the leaf to remove it. As always, when I get a new product to play with on my jelly plate, I do a little bit of experimenting or exploring how I like to use that medium. So in this case, I started out simple. I did the powders on the leaves for the first layer. I did some white acrylic paint over the top, and then I'm putting my leaves down again to get a little bit more impression from the acrylic paint. This time I'm using a piece of 32-pound hammer mill copy paper. My technique here is I wanted to pull this back and remove those leaves and then press down my paper right over where that little leaf shape was. So I took off about half of the leaves, pressed my paper down, and then I pulled up the paper from the other side and removed the rest of the leaves. And now I was able to remove the print with the chalky base leaf, and then there's an outline of the leaves with the white paint. So it was interesting. It was very light, very faint. So I thought I would make the colors a little more intense and just keep going with this technique to see if I could make it a little more to my liking. So for this next one, I'm using the bigger brush to get a little bit more color on the leaves. I'm trying to get a little more of that powder kind of left behind over the veins. And I'm just blending out different colors on each of the leaves. I'm mostly working with some blues and greens and yellow. I've got this little peach color, but I don't use that one very much. Once I lay down my leaves with the powder side facing the jelly plate, I did the same thing where I pressed down on a piece of tissue paper. And then I removed my leaves. And now I'm adding some gold paint. This is just craft paint. And I'm just putting a light layer of this gold to remove this second print. Once I got that print off, you can see those leftover white leaf outlines. And then you have the different pigment layers of the leaves. And I thought this was very subtle, a little bit more color than the first one. So I wanted to keep going with this just to see how it changes for me as I kind of play with this technique. So I put more powders on the back of these leaves and I pressed them in. And this time I left them on the jelly plate, and I thought it would be kind of cool to get the outline of the leaves with the powders. So that's what I did. I kind of changed out the colors as I was going around the leaves, and I had to hold them down. And you just have to be careful because the leaves are really delicate. The thing I noticed about these chalk pastels, pan pastels, is that they blend very smooth. I love the blend on these. And I think this makes a nice pop of color. So I'm excited to see how this print is going to look. Before I pull up the print for this one, I added a layer of the metallics. It's the gold and the copper. And I wanted to see how these two metallics compared to the perfect pearls. Although I didn't do a side-by-side comparison, just as I'm putting it down, I'm imagining what it would have looked like had I used my perfect pearls. And I actually think they're very similar. I had so much fun applying these that I ended up applying these metallics over the entire background of the jelly plate, everything that was kind of remaining. And then I went ahead and added my white paint over the top. And I just blended that out and used the same Hammermill 32-pound copy paper. Now these lids, you can see they have a bunch of lids when they come in this set, but I hadn't even looked this up online yet, but I noticed that they could kind of twist on top of each other like this. This makes them also a little bit more compact for storage, but then I ended up looking up some videos and I saw that some of the sets are sold like this, where they don't have the individual lids. They're just sold together like this. I do like that I have the lids because you can use these as palettes to kind of mix different colors. And also if I want to keep my colors kind of separated and visually see what my colors are, I can put them away individually. So to remove this print, it was sticking to the gel plate really well. I just pulled very slowly until the whole print removed. And the colors on this one, of course, they're really bright against the gold and the copper background. I just think these colors are so pretty, and they definitely have the golden fluid acrylic vibes to them, which I love because I love the bright colors. And then this is the muted one compared to the gold, which is a very nice toned down one. And then of course this one that looks a lot more like vibrant. So for the next print, I'm going to just put some white over what was left on the gel plate. Now to remove this one, this is more like a ghost print. Each time I let go of the paper and it kind of stuck on the gel plate, it had a line through it, which I thought was very interesting. So I tried pulling this last piece kind of continuously, but you can see those little lines. I'm not sure why it did that. You could work with it and make it look pretty cool though. To clean off this layer, I am using baby oil, and I just use a paper towel. And I just keep reapplying that baby oil until all of the powders are removed from the gel plate. It doesn't take long to do. I think to clean all of these powders off, it took only about 3 minutes. Next, I'm going to take some Versamark ink. This is again me just experimenting. I will say that this step is unnecessary on the gel plate, basically is what I learned. I'm just leaving it in here so that I can kind of share where my vision was going with this and then what actually worked, what actually happened. So my thought was to put the Versamark ink on top of the stencil to get the powders to adhere to the stencil, because they probably, in my mind, I was imagining that the powders won't stick to a slick surface. That's why I used the Versamark. And then I placed that over the top of my gel plate with the powder side facing down. And this time I used my brayer just to press that powder into the surface. And then on top of it, I put my white paint down and just brayered through the stencil until I had a nice even layer of paint. And then I'm using some bubble wrap. This is heart bubble wrap that I got from Journal Say. It's a company that reached out to me. They do a lot of journaling supplies, and they sent me a package of some fun things to try, and I just love these heart bubble wraps. Definitely wanted to use those for Gelli printing. Next, I'm adding in my colors just right over the top of that stencil, focusing on where those little heart areas are. I really liked the blending of the colors here and creating new colors as I was doing this, because as you've noticed, or if you've noticed, I don't have an orange, so I did have to mix colors. To do that, all I did was tap in one color, tap in the color I wanted to mix it with, and blend it out on the gel plate. And then I could remove the stencil at this point. And remember, I had that Versamark powder on that first layer there. It did not leave any of the powder on the gel plate. So to create the effect with a little bit more vibrant color, I just went into all those areas with my colors and just blended those out. And now I'm using the white again as my pickup layer. I left this to dry for about an hour, and to remove this print, I flipped it over this time and I just started peeling away the Gelli plate from the paper. This is still tricky to do. You don't want the Gelli plate to curl up the paper, so it is tricky. I like to pull the Gelli plate up on both sides first and meet at the middle and pull away the rest. And you can see how bright and colorful this print is. It's a little more muted where the white paint and the hearts are, but all around it, those colors look beautiful. So I put my stencil right back on the gel plate, but I offset it just a little from what was left on the gel plate. And then I used my copper, Amsterdam copper paint, to put some of this copper in a few different areas. This time I'm using black to pull up this print. I wanted to see how the black would look over these pastels, to see if they have vibrant color or if they are too muted to do this ghost print with the black. Because remember, this isn't the full pigment, this is the second version of it. And I do have that copper on the print, so the copper definitely stands out really nice, and you can see the color a little bit over the black, but I wanted to see if I could just kind of take this little knife tool and rub some of the color in those areas and blend it. And I thought this was so much fun. This was such a relaxing exercise. It was like painting, except not messy. I didn't have to worry about water and mixing my colors. If I did mix a muddy color from, say, a yellow to a purple, all I had to do was rub it off on a paper towel and go over it with the yellow, and the yellow was nice and bright again. So it was very easy to blend and kind of see how the colors work together, which colors do create mud and which colors work and blend well. So this was kind of my exercise for playing with the mixing qualities of the pastels, and I just thought this was so much fun, and it looks really cool. It's very soft looking. So for the next print, I'm going to start with these layering stencils that I got from Michaels. This is kind of like postcard stencil that you build up the layers. So I always start, when I'm doing it on the gel plate, I start with the last number. So this is number 4 out of the set, and I work my way up to number 1 because this is the front of it. So if you were doing it on paper, number 1 would be in the back, and on the gel plate, number 4 will be in the front. So that's why I do this, and I always flip it so my text is backwards. Now you will notice I left what was kind of left over on the gel plate from the previous print. I just left all of that, and I'm stenciling right over the top of it. And I wanted to have that as kind of like a nice muted background. To line these up, all I did was place the stencil right behind it and then flipped it over, but I also could see through the stencil, so I knew where to line it up because you can see where the words fit inside the little bubbles. I was also referencing the picture on the packaging to make sure I had it lined up the right way. It's already looking really cool, especially with all the different colors. And I am using white this time. And my goal with the white on this print was just to cover that kind of the center area. So I didn't go all the way to the edges with my paint. So this print turned out so beautiful. I really love that ghost print design in the background. So I thought I would keep going with it and see how many layers I could get out of this background piece. Now that I had the postage markings on the gel plate, I left those, and I am pulling in a new stencil. This is the pumpkins. I've used this once before, but I used it with my perfect pearls, and I really wanted to try with the Pan Pastels because of all the colors. So each layer, again, I start with the last layer, and that's the kind of like the outline layer, and then I just work my way backwards. But each of these layers, I was able to kind of mix and blend some of those colors together and create a lot of dimension in each of the way I was adding the layers. I had so much fun with this, and I was just using any color. I was using purple and blue and just kind of blending them, sticking to the shadows for the blues and the purples and the reds. And then for the more of the pumpkin body, I was using more of my greens and yellows and mixing them with the red to create orange. And because I had to mix up my orange, I was getting different shades of orange depending on how much of the color I was blending. I think these pumpkins are just so cute, and they really create a beautiful layered pumpkin by kind of picking out the colors for all of these different shades. In this layer, I added in some more of my Pan Pastels, but I also added in the metallics. I've got the gold metallic, and I also have some of the copper, and I was mixing the gold and copper metallics on this layer here, and also pulling in some Pan Pastels. But I really liked the idea that some of the shine of the pumpkin would have that metallic layer. So this is the final layer, and to remove the stencil I could finally see the whole picture coming together. I put more white paint down. This time I covered the entire background with the white paint. And this is still the Hammermill 32-pound copy paper. After leaving this to dry for about 30 minutes, I slowly peeled the print, and you could still see, you could see all of the pumpkin layer. You can see the layer behind it with the postage, but it's kind of ghost printy, but you can still see it barely on the behind the pumpkins, and then it's a little more vibrant around the pumpkins, and you can still see that print from the background that I had done previously. So I just thought that print turned out so cool. I loved how the layers built up, and I loved working with the Pan Pastels to see how they layer on top of each other, and how I can use kind of like the ghost print version to kind of leave on the plate but print over it with a fresh color. So I just had a lot of fun just exploring this medium and all the different ways that I could use it, not only on the gel plate but also on the paper itself. I had so much fun, and this last print here with the pumpkins is definitely my favorite of the prints that I made. Of course, these colors, they are just the best. I wish I had an orange and I wish I had a purple, but I am really glad that I can make an orange and purple with the colors that I have, and I will probably be on the lookout for a set that has those two colors in it. I feel like they're missing from my kind of color collection here, but I definitely will be working with these Pan Pastels a lot, and I want to mix them with my paint, pearls, and alcohol inks as future projects or future jelly prints. So let me know how you like using your Pan Pastels if you have some, and if you have any suggestions for the Pan Pastel on the jelly plate. And thank you for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video. In the meantime, happy crafting, y'all.